Let me have a very proud moment to introduce Dr. Rakesh Bhargav from Aligarh.
In second lecture here, probably I will be coming here repeatedly because as you must be knowing, during next year, rather in the same period, roughly 21, 22 and 23, we are going to have NAPCON, that means a national conference on pulmonology in the same venue, that is JP Hotel here. I want your full cooperation so that that conference at Agra will be very successful one. It's my proud privilege to be here at the IAMI-Con. I met Mr. Modi when he was introducing this drug, Rizorin, probably in the Tashkent. And at that time, most of the people, rather I was also not very much convinced about the thing. Whether this drug will be a effective one. We are right from very beginning thinking that rifampicin, if dose is less, patient may usually develop the resistance. But because at the time we have very much rather argued about this, and we come to know that the paper in the drug, the enhancer drug which has been added, will lead to almost equivalent serum concentration of the drug. That's why we convinced, and later on we practiced it and we found a very good result. That was a thinking which we went at rather 15 minutes waiting, and that thing convinced me a lot. So coming to the topic, innovation in communicable diseases. As you all know, communicable disease is the disease which is being transmitted from one person to another person. It's a very big topic, but I think we should take a very limited part of it, because as Albert Einstein has told, that imagination is more important than the knowledge. So what we take in this meeting, the overview about the communicable disease burden. What are the new markers which has come up in infection and inflammation? Innovation in management of tuberculosis, in diagnosis, prevention and in treatment. This is my rather main concern because I belong to this department, but we will touch something about the innovation in the management of dengue, malaria and HIV, which is more prevalent nowadays in our country. The dengue was still there, but now it's decreasing. But all the things are very prevalent in our setup. It is said that roughly 15 million people are dying because of infectious diseases. Huge amount, and most of the death occurs in third world country or developing countries like India. Estimate says that AIDS is roughly 26 lakhs, respiratory disease 35 lakhs. TB alone, you can say that 15 lakh people are dying each year. Malaria 11 lakh and measles roughly 9 lakhs. So this is the burden which you can see, and lot of things has to be done to control this. What we have, because the slide shows that what communicable diseases are there and what are the unmet needs. You see that in HIV and AIDS, we know the prevention is there, but there is no medication to prevent the thing. Treatment is there, but there is nothing to cure. Same way in tuberculosis, but we say we have the preventive drugs, we have the treatment, we have the drugs to cure the thing. But now the thing is changing. We are getting MDR, XDR, now even total drug resistant tuberculosis is coming. So we are lacking in preventing, even treating and even curing the patient of tuberculosis. So we need much more innovation to control this thing. Same way in malaria, we don't have any preventive medicine, no preventive vaccines. Treatment is of course there, and we can cure most of the patients, but again resistances are coming up and we don't have things. But in childhood diseases, most of the things we have the medicine and we can prevent it. But coming to respiratory diseases, we have treatment to prevent the thing. We have treatment. We have drugs to treat most of the patient, but we don't have. We have drugs again to cure the thing, but some again resistance infections are coming up, and that leading to the cause. Yes. Because most of the respiratory diseases, patients are still dying because of the infections. Same way we have other diseases in which we have either the prevention, we don't have prevention, or we don't have the proper cure. So what current gaps occur in communicable diseases is there is no cure for the HIV and AIDS. No effective vaccine is available for preventing most deadly diseases like tuberculosis, HIV, malaria, dengue, etc. Almost all the diseases we don't have the proper vaccine. So most of the research are going on to control these things. And we have lack of antimicrobials to treat MDR, XDR, and TDR tuberculosis, as well as we don't have very good treatment for the respiratory infection even when they are having the resistance. Now let's come to the biomarkers in bacterial infection. That's a new thing which is coming up very quickly. We know the current biomarkers. We are using WBC count for the infection, TLC is increased, the thing is this, but this is not a very good marker. It takes a little bit longer time. Then we have the CRP, which is we are using very commonly. Same way we have the human necrotic factor alpha, as well as interleukin. But the new biomarkers which are coming up is your lipopolysaccharide binding protein, and another marker is the procalcitonin, which is coming up very quickly and is giving very good result. And another biomarker is exhaled volatile organic compounds. This is very important thing, because volatile organic compounds can be measured without taking blood of the patient. Only exhaled gas from the mouth can give rise to various good results. So these things are coming up very quickly. Let's take one by one. I think we should take the procalcitonin, which is a newer biomarker for the diagnosis of systemic inflammation, infection, and sepsis. This is a thing which can differentiate between different type of infection even. Serum level of the procalcitonin are elevated in response to bacterial endotoxin and inflammatory cytokines released during inflammation. Patients with bacterial infection have higher serum procalcitonin level than those of non-bacterial, especially viral. And we have done a study in our institution in which we have compared the normal person with tuberculosis with pneumonia. Tuberculosis with severe infection and pneumonia with sepsis also. In this thing which we have found that the level is totally different. In tuberculosis relatively less, but tuberculosis with severity, the level goes high. But in the same way, in pneumonia, the level is high, but with sepsis, the level goes further high. So, a normal person's serum concentration in healthy infusion is less than 0.1 nanogram per ml. That is a very good chart by which we can use the antibiotic. So, proper use of antibiotic can be governed by the procalcitonin. We can start the antibiotic therapy, we can reduce the antibiotic therapy, and we can stop the antibiotics according to procalcitonin. When the level is less than 0.1 microgram, you cannot strongly discourage to start the antibiotics. When level is between 0.1 to 0.25, it's not an indication to start the antibiotic. But when the level goes above 0.26 to 0.5, antibiotic is recommended. But if it is going more than 0.5 microgram per liter, then antibiotic is strongly recommended. So, by just measuring the level of procalcitonin, we can be guided to start or to stop or to reduce the doses of antibiotics. So, not only this, procalcitonin helps differentiate between bacterial and viral infection, basically in our preliminary study, we can differentiate between tuberculosis and pneumonia also. That is a very common thing which we face sometimes, to differentiate between these two. But if the patient is having some abnormal shadow in X-ray, we are not sure, symptoms are mild to moderate. If we are not sure whether this is tubercular or pneumonia, this level can be helpful. But this is only a very preliminary study. No, in India, only 1-2 study has been done. In Western countries, there is no study in which tuberculosis and pneumonia was compared with causes. So I am saying there is one study which we have done, and another study in India, which has said that the level is different. But later on, we should have more studies to confirm the things, because we have used only 30 patients in our thing, because flow calcium only a little bit costly thing. Later on, when the cost will go down, we can have the thing. Same way, elevated level predicts mortality in critically ill. If the level is very, very high, chances of mortality is also good. So we can judiciously start the antibiotic and stop the antibiotic according to the procalcitonin. Sequential procalcitonin level are excellent guide to duration of antibacterial therapies. That's again which we can get. Now coming a little bit about the Exhale, volatile organic compound or VOCs in common. Normally all the things which we see is that invasive. If we go for lung biopsy, that invasive. Less invasive is a trans-lung biopsy. Further less invasive is the bronchial mucous biopsy and bronchial alveolar lavage. And even less invasive is the sputum or exhaled but condensate or exhaled pus. So this is the thing which is almost least invasive, and even then we can get some diagnosis because of this exhaled volatile gases. So this thing is very, very important when the patient is very serious, or even the small child, where basically you cannot get the invasive samples very easily. Then these things are very, very important. So various multiple techniques can be used to collect and detect and analyze the exhaled volatile component. And the first and most important is the gas chromatography. Nowadays, electronic nose is coming up, which is giving rise to results very, very good. Then we have the other proton transfer reaction mass spectrometry, selected iron flow tube mass spectrometry, and mobility spectrometry. These are all under trial. Still, recommendation has not come with this, but trial is going on, and with this, within a few years, we can get the things very quickly. So, breath print, which we can get from the eNose, is different VOCs are exhaled in different diseases. We commonly know that the FeNO, that is nitrous oxide, is increased in cases of bronchial asthma. Again, most of studies are coming up. If the bronchial asthma is extrinsic, then the chances is that FeNO is increased. But if intrinsic asthma, it may not be increased so high. So this is the thing which is coming up, and still the results are not very good. But within few years we can get the same way. We can examine about the hydrocarbons, nitrogen, oxygen, and sulfur-containing compounds in the exhaled gas during exhalation, and we can get the various diseases like tuberculosis. Few things has come up for diagnosis of tuberculosis by exhaled gases. Cystic fibrosis, asthma, I already told you, COPD, and lung cancer. Lung cancer and rather in bronchial asthma, research is very, very, within few years we are getting the things. So I told you this is very important in children and elderly person, as well as very seriously ill patient, because it's non-invasive and easy to perform. Now coming about a little bit about innovation in tuberculosis, because it's my subject, I will tell you right from very history from tuberculosis. You can say in 1882, Robert Koch discovered tuberculosis. 95, we got the chest X-ray. In 1907, tuberculin skin test came first. Then BCG vaccination was developed in 21, and 1936 solid culture first used. but still there was no treatment. Treatment came in 1943 when streptomycin was introduced. Then in 1963, rifampicin, capreomycin was discovered. Later on, 1974 to 90, there is emergence of the MDR tuberculosis and HIV TB co-infection, which has come not only in developing countries but also in the developed countries. Now another innovation has come in 2010 when we have the GeneXpert MTB, the RIF, which was introduced, and that is going to revolutionize the diagnosis of tuberculosis in recent time. So what are the innovation in tuberculosis diagnosis? We know infection with tuberculosis, it goes into human host, the replication of Mycobacterium tuberculosis occurs, and later on patient develops immune response to the tuberculosis. So what are the new way of diagnosing tuberculosis? First is the antigen detection test. Now we have the LAM. This is a part of the bacterial wall which can be detected in urine. This is almost indicative of Mycobacterium diseases, and this can be detected in the urine. So LAM test which can detect the tubercular antigen in urine. Second, what we have is the microscopic. Still we are doing microscopy, we are doing AFB testing, but now new innovation has come up in which LED microscopy has come and bleach microscopy has come, which is giving the better result, very quick result. Then we have the culture. Previously we are using LJ culture for tuberculosis bacilli, but now we have the broad culture or liquid-based culture which are available for detecting the tuberculosis, which can give the results very quickly in 10 to 15 days instead of 6 weeks. Here we have microscopic examination of the culture, what we call the mods. Then we have the thin layer agar, which is grown on the slide, which we can see on microscopy and can get the result very quickly. Same way we have the phase-based test. Then we have the colorimetric test, by which we can detect tuberculosis very early. Now I tell you the newer thing which has come is the NANT, what is the nucleic acid amplification test. Here we have the GeneXpert, or we have the test called the genotype MDR, MTB-DR plus test, which is available nowadays, which we can do. Next, I told you the VOC or volatile organic compounds detection by eNOS or by biosensor, which are coming up, and within few years we may get the diagnosis of tuberculosis by just Exert-AR. Then we have the cellular immune response, in which the newer test which has come up is the interferon gold test, which give you, which have two type of antigen you can use. In that, one is that called a TB spot, and second is the ESET6. And by this test, you can know that patient is infected with the tuberculosis. Again, this test is for the detection that patient had tubercular infection. It is not confirmative. Still, the trials are going on, by which we can say that probably patient did have disease. But at present, it is said that TB gold test can confirm only that presence of infection rather than the disease. Now you have the humoral response. Antibody detection tests are available, what we call the serological test, but this is very controversial. I will take it later on. Now coming to serological test, which I said for the diagnosis of active tuberculosis. This is very test which is very commonly done, routinely done every time most of the patients we see for the extra pulmonary tuberculosis. But you are surprised to know that to detect humoral response by IgG, IgM or IgA for tuberculosis is not a confirmatory test. In India, all over the world, roughly 1.5 million tests are done, mainly by ELISA, every year for the diagnosis of active tuberculosis. An approximate cost of 825 million rupees per year. But this test is totally inaccurate, imprecise, and high risk of misdiagnosis of tuberculosis as well as underdiagnosis of tuberculosis. So not recommended by any international guidelines and should not be used in the developing countries like India. It's a very, very costly test and it should not be done. Rather, these are very long list of the tests which are available. Different type of tests are available, giving rise to different percentage of sensitivity and specificity. Serological test for tuberculosis current status, basically in July 2011, WHO issued a policy stating that the commercial serological tests provide inconsistent and imprecise estimates of the active sensitivity and activity specificity of the disease. So high proportion of false positive and false negative results will come. So it should be discouraged, and even the government of India and DCGI have banned the import of and sale of TB serological tests. It will do more harm than the good. So it should be discouraged, should not be done. Now, what are the other tests which are endorsed by the WHO and which are coming up? I told you there is a liquid culture test which are there. Now these liquid culture tests is totally computerized and every result will come very quickly. So these are commercial broad-based culture system, detect TB bacteria. These are backed alert 3D or MGIT, and this give result. You can get the result in 10 to 15 days, or even sometimes 20 days. Then we have the automated detection and MDR screening. The device allows automated sample processing, DNA amplification and detection of Mycobacterium tuberculosis and screening for the rifampicin test. The test which is now available here also is a Gene Expert devices, and almost every part of India will be getting this Gene Expert device, and you can get the result very quickly in this. Then you have the line probe assay, which are being established now established most of the district level, most of the district in even in UP. This is a strip test, simultaneously detect tuberculosis bacilli and genetic mutation that indicate patient is having resistance with the INH and rifampicin. So not only detection of tuberculosis but also detect the resistance. But it has another newer tests which are coming up. Not only it detects the primary resistance, but it may detect the secondary type of resistance also. So these tests are coming up and they are now being established everywhere. Then you have the STIP specification, detect the TB specific antigen, that is called MPV64 from the positive liquid and solid culture to confirm the presence of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. This is also a very rapid test. Now coming later to Gene Expert or Gene Expert MTB RIF assay. This test was introduced in 2010, and this is a major breakthrough after the Mayer's microscopy. It's a rapid, fully automated nucleic acid amplification test. It provides simultaneous diagnosis of tuberculosis and genotype rifampicin resistance. Yield roughly positive in 99 to 100% patient with smear positive tuberculosis. So almost 100% specificity and almost 83% patient of smear negative patient of tuberculosis can be detected by that. So overall sensitivity appears to be 81.3% sensitivity even in extrapulmonary tuberculosis cases. This is a machine and this is a process. Only 3 manual steps are there. You collect the sputum in a container, mix it with the sample reagent, wait for the 15 minutes, transfer it into the cartridge, and the cartridge is placed into the machine. Rest of the process will automatically be done by the machine, and you can get the result within 2 hours. So roughly within 2 hours of total process, you can get the result of the Gene Expert. So it's helpful in early detection, early suspicion of the MDR tuberculosis, because chances that once you think that the patient is an MDR rifampicin resistant, chances that he may be having the rifampicin resistance also. Sensitivity, I told you, is roughly 97%, specificity almost 99%. Then another is the line probe assay, or we have the Hain MDR plus and MDR plus SL test. I'm not going about detail about these tests, but by these two tests, by this first one, you can get the result in 5 to 6 hours only, and the process is relatively more manual as compared to the Gene Expert. And the second test is gene type MTV DR test. This test will detect resistant to primary drugs, fluoroquinolones, as well as the streptomycin and kanamycin and even ethambutol. So by this you can get the result within 5 to 6 hours. So can be the test can be performed not only from the sputum of the patient or any liquid body liquid form of the patient, but can from the culture which has been already developed. Simultaneous detection of the MTV and as well as resistant to rifampicin as well as IH. Result I told you can get in 5 hours. To allow early and appropriate treatment to be start very quickly. Helps reduce the spread of MDR, because once you detect MDR very quickly, you can start the treatment very quickly and you can prevent the spread of the disease very quickly. Now coming to other tests which are under development, and we can get these tests within few tests are available. As you know, the interferon gamma IGRA is already available with us, and in the name of quantiferon gold test, and for the to see the cellular immune response of the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Breath analyzer screening test, I told you, is going to be coming up very quickly, and you can get the result here within 10 minutes. Then LM detection in the urine, I told you, again is a very rapid test, and just detecting the typical part of the body wall of the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and result is almost confirmative, and you can get the result very quickly. Now coming to the vaccination for the common diseases. At present, roughly 300 vaccines is in the pipeline. Research are focusing mainly for the allergy diseases, cancer diseases, infectious diseases, then you have neurological diseases as well as for the other diseases. So mostly the diseases, infectious diseases, we have a good number of vaccines are being tried. Then we have the for cancer, and roughly 137 vaccines are trying for the infectious diseases like HIV, influenza, tuberculosis, dengue, and malaria, etc. First vaccine which have been developed in 1976 for the smallpox, and later on in 1885 rabies and polio, then hepatitis B, etc. And now we are searching for the other vaccine which can prevent the other infectious diseases. Regarding TB vaccines, lot of trials are still continuing, but at present, till date, only BCG is available, which gives very poor result from 0 to 80%. But of course, it can prevent the serious form of diseases in children. That's why it's mandatory to have BCG vaccination are set up. Newer vaccines which are coming up, there are two types of the vaccines are coming up. One is called the BCG replacement vaccine. Another is the booster to BCG. So in first one, we can replace the BCG with other newer vaccine, but in other type of booster is given in the form of vaccine after giving the BCG. So these two types of vaccination are available. In BCG replacement, we have the genetically modified BCG strain, what we call the RBCG30, and trial of stage 2 is going on about this vaccine. Then we have the BPM 1002, is again a recombinant BCG vaccine engineered to overexpert the listerolysine enzyme of the Listeria monocytogenes. Then we have the Mycobacterium vacci vaccine is also available. The trials are going on for that. Then we have the booster to the BCG vaccine. These are mostly viral vaccines which are given to boost the BCG vaccination. These are in the form of the MV85A. Then we have the Fluzil AD35 and M72 vaccines. These are all adjuvant vaccines which are given after the BCG vaccination. So BCG vaccination, currently there are roughly 11 candidates of the vaccination are there for the tuberculosis, and at present the phase 2 trials are going on for the ARAS 402 and 85, and for the safety and efficacy of this drug. Whereas in the phase 1 trial, still roughly 8 to 10 years will be there for the to get the result of these trials. So long time is taken for the confirmation of whether the vaccines are efficacious or not. So there are various trials which are going on for tuberculosis in different parts of, mainly they are done in the South Africa, UK, Zambia and Senegal. Still, status will be known by the 2020. Chinese people are developing one very peculiar type of vaccine which is effective not only for the tuberculosis but as well as HIV also. So this thing will come up, that basically this trial is still going on, another preclinical stage, but again it will take 8 to 10 years to develop this thing. But it's a very, very interesting thing to have a common vaccine for this. So coming to about the drug treatment of tuberculosis, as you know, the tuberculosis is very, very prevalent all over the world. Roughly 2 billion people are infected with this tuberculosis infection, and 10% of people are going to be having 10% of 2 billion will be going to have the disease. So, according to WHO estimate, 500,000 new cases of MDR tuberculosis are occurring. So globally, that's a major problem not only in the developing but as well as in developed countries. And 4% of all new TB cases going to be resistant. Rather, new say 4 to 5% cases of all tuberculosis who are newly detected may be having the MDR tuberculosis. And main thing is that one of the 20 tuberculosis patients are tested for the drug resistance. So most of these patients are not being tested for the drug resistance even. And even 20% of the patients of the MDR tuberculosis are on proper treatment. So 1 in 5 TB patients who have previously received tuberculosis may be having that drug resistant tuberculosis. As you all know about what are the limitations of the MDR tuberculosis, because treatment is of 2 years, usually daily injection has to be given for the first 6 months, then patient has to take multiple drugs which are more toxic and give rise to more and more side effects. Efficacy is also lower, roughly 48% of the MDR tuberculosis patients are being cured, and the treatment is more expensive. So what we need is the better drugs which have better efficacy, better tolerability as well. These are things which are urgently required. So what we need in new TB drugs is that the novel TB drugs should have the folic qualities, the faster acting drugs, so that the patient becomes sputum negative very, very quickly, and duration of treatment could be curtailed from 2 years to 1 year or even less. Different mechanism of action, so that it should not interact with the drugs which we are using. Then the third is the active drug. The drug should act on the dormant bacilli also, because we know these are the dormant bacilli which causes the relapse in most of the cases of tuberculosis. So drug which we need should be effective on the dormant bacilli. That means the bacilli which are not multiplying in the lesion. And these are the drugs are to be there, which can prevent the relapse of the tuberculosis. But not only that, but it can reduce the duration of the tuberculosis treatment. So what are the novel anti-tubercular drugs are available? The long list is there, but most of the thing is the common group is the nitroimidazole derivatives in the form of OPC 678683 and PA8824. This is phase 2 trial is going on at present. Then oxyzolidine analogs are available. Pfizer as well as AstraZeneca is developing it. Again, is in the phase 2 trial. Then we have the substituted ethylene andiamine group SQ109, which is being developed by the another company in the phase 2 trial. This is basically ethambutol derivative. Then we have the diaryl quinolone, which has been commercialized, and US FDA has given the permission to start this drug in MDR tuberculosis. and even without completing the second phase. So you can know that what an emergency is there to control the MDR tuberculosis without starting the phase 3 trial. The drug has been commissioned in the US FDA. At least 10 compounds are there in the clinical trial. This is a drug, Bedaquiline, which has been drug which has come after 40 years after Rifampicin. The drug is bought by Johnson & Johnson by Janssen Pharmaceuticals. 100 milligram tablet is available. The trade name is Cicero, approved by USDA in December 2012 for MDR tuberculosis only. And decreases, basically the action is that it decreases energy production, so interfering with the ATPase synthetase 3 and inhibits the growth of actively replicating bacteria as well as non-replicating drug-sensitive and drug-resistant mycobacterial tuberculosis. So sooner, this is drug which is will be going to be effective on the even dormant bacilli. No adverse drug interaction is seen with other anti-tubercular drugs. No cross-resistance with either ethambutol, pyrazinamide, moxifloxacin, amikacin, or suprenisone, the drug which we are using in the second line drugs. So that drug appears to be very promising. The dose is again very peculiar. Now the drug is only being used for the first 24 weeks only. Initially the drug is being 4 tablets of 100 milligram for 2 weeks only. Then the drug is being given 200 milligram 3 times a day, 3 times a week for another 22 weeks. So 6-month therapy has been used, and FDA has said it should not be used more than that because we don't know about the male suicide rate. Even when the comparison was done of this drug was done with the placebo, the results are very good, but the death was more, a little bit death was more in this patient. Here is causes a prolongation of the QT interval, so this patient, the drug should be used very cautiously in the patient who is having some conduction defects. Another drug which has come up is the Delaminate, which has been developed by the Japanese researchers. This is the people are asking for this drug, that this drug should come up in the market for the MDR tuberculosis. This is a nitroimidazole derivative. Inhibits the mycolic acid synthesis, that is cell wall synthesis, inhibits the cell wall synthesis. It is going underway, third trial has been started. But people are demanding that this drug should come in the pipeline also. The one drug which has been is a pyrrole inhibitive, also developing by one Indian researcher. Indian group is doing the research on this pyrrole, and again this is stage phase 1 trial only. In summary, you can say that the drug development activity, we should have the new classes of drugs, optimization of existing. Old drugs may be having the new cases. 1 to 2 possible conditional approval occurs in 12 months. New mechanisms being developed to accelerate the things, and what be the result of wishful thinking. That's why we should have the optimization of the existing drugs. You can know that the rifampicin and rifampicin, these 2 drugs are being used. But at the time of introduction of the rifampicin, we were not knowing what was the exact dose of the rifampicin to be used. So nowadays, newer research are being coming that rifampicin can be used in higher doses, or rifampicin can be used in higher doses in MDR tuberculosis to overcome that. So this is the new research which are coming up for the rifampicin in MDR tuberculosis. Now we have the boosted rifampicin, as you know, the Rezurin, which was developed by the Cadila along with with CSIR. This is the drug, as you know, is effective on the cytochrome P450 and P glycoprotein induction, induces the glucuronidation, severe serves to facilitate the elimination of drug from the tissue, induces its own metabolism. Serum levels it decreases over time. So main solution with this is that when the piperine is used in combination with this, the serum level of the drug increases and coming to the almost equivalent to that of the 450 milligram of rifampicin when we use in comparison to what we use in the Rezurin is only 200 milligram of the drug. And most of the trials have confirmed, even DCG have confirmed it after animal trials, that this drug is almost equivalent to that of the 450 milligrams of the rifampicin. So this is a construct which is indigenous, is cure which is eventless, and cure completely by rapid lab. Another, basically now we have another drugs in the tuberculosis, little bit about the tuberculosis drugs, which are being initially developed for the other indication, for especially infection, but now trials are being done to use them in the MDR tuberculosis, especially is the linezolid and its other compounds. Same way in the moxifloxacin and the gedifloxacin. These two drugs are also now being tried in MDR tuberculosis, and phase 3 trials are being conducted. I have conducted one trial in which the moxifloxacin has been used to decrease the duration of the total therapy of drug sensitive tuberculosis from 6 months to 4 months. The trial has been completed, but results are pending. Probably it will come. It will take another 1 year to come the result. When we found that in the primary line, if you are adding the fluoroquinolones, may reduce. It may. I am not saying 100%, but it may reduce. So chances that may or may not be. Then another trial are being conducted for the metronidazole and its derivative. These drugs are again in the phase 1 and phase 2 trial to be included in the MDR tuberculosis treatment. Now coming to innovation, so in some other communicable diseases, first about the dengue fever. There is again a growing global problem. 100 million cases reported every year. 20,000 deaths occurs in a year. You know, in last 15-20 days, every ward of medical college was full with the dengue problem, and lot of deaths also occurred in our medical college. So incidence has risen 30-fold in the past 50 years. As you know, the disease is spread by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. Currently, there is no effective vaccines available or a specific drug exists to treat the dengue. But some innovation has come for eradication of the mosquito, what is called the GM mosquitoes. Professor Luc Elfay from the Department of Zoology at the University of Oxford has developed a genetically modified strain of Aedes aegypti. When these mosquitoes are released into the wild state, they genetically modified the male mate with females, and their springs never develop into the adults. So that's why they eradicate the adult Aedes, and which successful field trials has been conducted in Brazil, Malaysia, and the Cayman Islands, and the person has received the Wellcome Trust Translation Award for developing this genetically modified Aedes. So these are the various vaccines which are under trial for the dengue vaccine. Dengue DNA vaccine, Denvax tetravalent hybrid dengue virus vaccine, dengue DNA vaccine, developed by the various sponsors, and they are still in the phase 1 or phase 2 trial. So still it will take another 5-10 years to get the another vaccine for the dengue come. Then you have the various malaria vaccines which are being developed by the various sponsors from different part of countries, and I'm not going to take the name of all these things. But you know that roughly seven trials are going on from phase 2, phase 3, and which can give you results early years. Then coming to the HIV/AIDS diagnostic test, then there is a nanobios and nanotechnology firm based on Boston has created a mobile device that can accurately test for the HIV/AIDS. It's called the Gene Radar. The iPad size piece of technology works by taking a drop of blood anywhere, or even saliva or any body fluid, and placing on the nail chip and then put into the device, and result come within an hour about the presence or absence of the HIV infection. Things is coming up very, very good. So what are the future of communication? Last we can then discuss the communication future. The number of promising new diagnostic tests, vaccine, medication are under development. It may take 5 to 10 years to have all these things, and these innovations will help in fighting the communicable diseases promptly and more effectively, especially in our third world country where most of the people are dying because of the communicable diseases. Very, rather shame for most of the our developing countries that these diseases can be preventable, can be easily treatable, and most of the people are still dying because of these communicable diseases. So marathon of research from eliminating human suffering. So if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, keep on moving. That's from the Martin Luther King. Thank you very much for patience.
The questions from the audience are invited. Dr. Bhargav will be happy to answer.
So all innovations were done, but I'm a gynecologist. So what I want to know that what is the accurate test of them and where they are available for tuberculosis. Mostly open tuberculosis we know, doing the things. But when it is, little this thing like abdominal
My
or
asking, I'll be trying the same question.
So what are the things? What should we do now exactly to convince the patient? To convince
if you are
ourselves.
pertaining for the genitourinary tuberculosis,
Yeah.
or any other type of the extrapulmonary tuberculosis.
Not very clear.
Extrapulmonary tuberculosis. Yes, for extrapulmonary tuberculosis, we have the fluids, as in pleural effusion, pleural fluid, as in the abdominal tuberculosis, we have the ascitic fluid. For the endometrial tuberculosis, we have the menstrual blood or histopathology from the endometrium. These are the specimens which can be used by gene expert or by the His test, and you can get the result very quickly. Otherwise, you can go for the culture and get the result.
I've got more than 30-year experience, and every time endometrial biopsy we are sending it for culture. It has never come positive, and all the time it is
I'm not
misleading.
saying for culture routine, for the gene expert or His test.
That was my next question, that gene expert, where it is available and in how much cost and how we can get it done.
Roughly, the costing is 1,500 to 2,000 rupees, depending.
And who is doing it?
Basically, all the national laboratories, they are doing it. Probably it's going to be started in the SN Medical College soon, probably. And probably His, that LPA must have come, sir. Dr. Gupta. That is going to be started in probably in the Agra also, and even in Aligarh, LPA machine has come, but it's going to be started very soon. And you have the basically in the Jalma, there is one His machine already started working. They can do it very quickly. No problem.
Then I've got one patient, infertility patient, who had severe ascites. It was treated, anti-tubercular medicine was given by the expert, even corticosteroids were given. But every time ascites is coming back and it is there. So what's the reason? We were thinking about multi-drug resistant. Ascitic fluid was taken by laparoscopy, it was sent for all the tests and all, it came negative. So what can be the reason? Again, ascites is positive, but she's treated 2-3 times.
That's what I mean. First thing is MDR is very, very rare in ascites. Ascites cannot, if it is a tubercular, patient has to respond. If ascites is coming again and again, that means patient is probably not having tuberculosis. So what tests are possible? Basically, for confirmation of ascites, first thing what we have is lymphocytic predominance. Next test which you can go is the ADA, which should be positive. If it is both the thing, if it is positive and even the patient is repeating, then for saying the patient is the MDR tuberculosis, patient has to either you have to demonstrate the presence of bacilli, that by either smear or by culture or by the newer test, nucleic acid amplification test. This has to be possible. Dr. Gupta has come calling. Sir, you have LPA machine has been installed in your department.
It is in the TBD. Nutrition. I want to ask you, apart from your old tests, like
Sir,
new tests.
Sir, please one thing.
Sputum is not an old test. Sputum microscopy is still the test which is to be
I
done.
understand. What I want to say is, you have told us the battery of tests. Are they going to tell us that TB is active or not, or we have to consider all the history and all?
Please repeat.
Active tuberculosis, which test is going to?
So, presence of bacilli if you demonstrate in the
Apart from that, these battery of tests.
So all the tests, once you are demonstrating the bacteria or its product or antigen, that means the bacilli is present in the
will be
body.
there even if the tuberculosis is inactive.
No,
Antigen is going to be
no,
there.
bacteria will not be present in active disease. Once it is present, it means the disease is active. Antibodies are the things which may be present. So that's why these tests are almost obsolete. It should not be done because antibodies can be present even with a high concentration, even after the curing of the disease.
What is the place of Mera?
So when I was resident, this was at the first stage. This was available all over place. Government setup. It was given as primary line drug.
Yeah, this is what I
This was given
Yes.
as primary line drug.
Yes.
So, but after that, it's not available. Government it become very costly drug. Later on, for many years, it was not available in the market. Then again, it has come out. Now we are using as second line drug.
This is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
The drug which has been used earlier as a primary line, first line. And I can say that I used a lot also. But now it is the second line drug. So is it a place still for second line? Is it the drug?
Yeah, it is there. Third drug is there.
Yeah,
It is a
I know
bacteriostatic
the drug
drug.
is there.
Only problem is with bacteriostatic drug. But when we don't have the good drugs in second line, what we do? Sir, we were searching for the thiazidone also. That was not available anywhere.
Same is true for ethanamide and other drugs.
Ethanamide is available. Ethanamide is available, but thiazidone is the drug because best people they say this is a drug giving very common reaction. But in our setup, we have seen few reactions. Whole life, 15-20 years, I've seen 2-3 patients developing Stevens-Johnson syndrome and exfoliative dermatitis. 3-4 patients in whole life, but very rare. But this was a good drug that we have. I used thiazidone as second line drug also. And we got the good result. But it's not available nowadays.